Hello everyone, this is Aaron Johnson with the Johnson Iracing team. I'm bringing you part 5, the 5th and final installment in our Diet Coke Street Stock Paint Scheme project. This tutorial is going to go over how to take this street stock and turn this white car into a chrome silver color, yet leave all the Diet Coke logos and all of the decal layers and sponsor layers in their normal state. We're also going to make the double zeros and the Coke itself, just the red parts, we're going to make those parts flat so that we can illustrate how to use a flat texture. To do that, we need to create something that Iracing and Trading Paints call a spec layer. That's short for specular layer. And what a specular layer does is it communicates to Trading Paints and Iracing which parts of the car need to be a sort of a chromium plated color, which parts are a normal gloss paint, and which parts are some kind of a flat paint. So to do that, we're going to need to use a base paint. We're going to use this base paint layer right here. We're going to go ahead and make it visible for now. And right now you'll see that everything's black. And if we were to upload a spec layer that was all black, anywhere there's black paint, that tells Iracing and Trading Paints to leave everything alone and leave the normal glossy paint texture in there. Right. But what we need to do is we need to decide the things that are going to be flat colored. I want to do those things first. The things that are going to be flat colored are going to be the Coke symbols and all the zeros. So I'm going to go back to my number layer and I'm going to start out. I'm going to go ahead and make the decals and the sponsors invisible now. So all I can see are the numbers. I'm going to hit the magic wand tool, I'm going to push the shift button, and I'm going to click on a red spot. And what that does is that highlights everything that is that Diet Coke red, that ED1A3B color that we chose. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my base paint. I'm going to make it visible. Right now it's all black. I want these to be flat. And so to tell Iracing and Trading Paints that something has to be a flat color, we use the color green. The brighter the green, the flatter the texture. Okay, so if we make the green to the maximum of 255 and we paint these using the paint bucket, we paint all of our selected areas green, that's going to tell Iracing that those should be flat numbers and they should not shine at all. And that's what we want. Okay, so we want to make sure we get all the zeros. I missed that one. We want to make sure that we get all the zeros nice and flat colored, like that. Okay, so we just told Iracing that if we upload this as a specular layer, it's going to make all of the zeros flat Diet Coke red. Right? So we can go ahead and make this layer invisible again. We just did all the numbers, but we also need to do Diet Coke. So we're going to highlight then our sponsor layer. We're going to come over here to edit, and we're going to pick deselect so that all of our selections are gone. And then we're going to start all over again with Diet Coke. Now I'm going to try using the shift key on a C, but it may well select all reds. And it did. I was afraid that it would. So I'm going to undo, and instead I'm going to go to Control, and I'm going to select all of the letters in Coke in all 3 spots. And I'm going to do that one letter at a time. I apologize for the background noise. That is my 16-year-old and playing with her dog, Sarah. All right, so I've selected all these things. I've got all the Cokes selected. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the zeros for Coke. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to select my base paint. I'm going to make it visible. I'm going to select my paint bucket. I still have bright green on my left button. So I'm going to fill these guys in with my bright green. So now I just told, when I upload this into Trading Paints or into Iracing, I'm telling Iracing and Trading Paints that everything that's in this bright green color should be flat with absolutely no glossy shine at all. I'm going to go ahead and hide my base paint layer again. I'm going to do away with the sponsors. I'm going to go ahead and deselect everything. And now I've got my blank car. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to tell Iracing which things are supposed to be glossy and shiny. Now, I may have made a big mistake here, But I don't think I did. All right. Because I want everything else on here to be glossy and shiny. So I'm going to go back up here to my base paint. I'm going to make it visible. I'm going to use the magic selection tool. I'm going to hold the shift button. When I click the 0, it's going to outline everything that's in bright green. Now, I want the car to be shiny, chromium plated. And to make a chrome texture, we use red. And we use red and slide it all the way to 255. If I have a pure white car and I use a chrome layer, a spec layer that's bright red, it's going to come out like chrome on a bumper. Now I'm going to use my paint bucket to paint everything outside. I said I was going to use my paint bucket. That didn't seem to work. Oh, I understand why. So I did this wrong. Basically, I selected the Coke, and I can only paint inside the lines. So I need to deselect everything. And then I need to select the areas that are outside the lines. Okay? And I've got to select the part inside the O's and inside the zeros because we want that to be shiny too. So we're going to add all of these little spots. We've got to add the spot inside the E, spot inside this O, spot inside that O, spot inside that O, spot inside this E, spot inside that O. We've got to come up here to our other zeros. We've got to plus this big baby in. We're going to add that one. We're going to add that one. We're going to add this guy, and we're going to add that guy. Now, if I fill it in, it should all turn red. Okay, so everything's turned red. Notice that the insides of the zeros are still dark. I'm going to go ahead and use my paintbrush for that. And I can just paint. And the nice thing about this is once I've selected an area, I don't have to stay inside the lines. If you were that kid in school that couldn't stay inside the lines, it's your lucky day. Because you just run the paintbrush over it, and paint.net fills it in for you. And it only fills in the part that you've selected. It's kind of a magic coloring tool. We want to make sure that we do that for everywhere that's still black. Missed a little spot right there. Come over here and do this Coke. Come up here and do that one. Now we'll zoom back out. And we don't want to see any black right now. So now what we've done is we've said, look, everything that's red is going to be chrome. Everything that's green is going to be flat. We still got one set of things that we've got to do because we've got a Summit Racing decal, we've got a Napa Auto Parts sponsorship, and we've got some other decals that really we don't want them to be flat or chrome. We want them to be their normal texture. So we've got to go to our decal layer, and we're going to work on decals. We're going to make the decal layer visible. We're going to hide the base paint layer. Now we can see our decals. We're going to go ahead and select that decal layer. We're going to deselect everything. And we're going to work on all these decals. We're going to start out by selecting everything that's red. We're going to zoom in here. We're going to hit the Shift key. We're going to click on this R in Johnson Iracing Team, and that just picked everything for us that was red. We're going to go back to our base paint. We're going to hit this button, and now we want everything that we want to leave as its normal texture, we want to paint it black. So we're just going to grab our paintbrush. We're going to come over here, and if it's flashing, we're going to paint it black. Okay. One of our problems is that doesn't get all of our decals because our decals are multiple colors. So we've got to go back to our decal layer. We're going to hide this base paint. We're going to deselect everything. And we're going to zoom in. And now in our base layer, we're going to pick everything that's black. We're going to hit the select tool. We're going to hit the shift button. We're going to pick this guy that's black. And we're going to go back up to our base paint. We're going to make it visible. We're going to grab our paintbrush. And we're going to paint everything that's flashing black. We're getting closer, right? We're getting closer to having all this done. Okay? But we're still missing some things. Right? We still got whatever's inside the Edelbrock here, whatever's inside the weld wheels, whatever's inside the STP, whatever's inside the hooker headers. We still got to take care of all that, so we've got another iteration here. We're going to do away with this guy. We're going to go to our decal layer. We're going to highlight it. We're going to deselect everything. Now in this one, we had a whole bunch of white in here, right? We got white in the Holly equipped. We got white inside the STP. We've got a bunch of yellow too. I'm going to start out with a yellow, I think. We're going to go Shift. We're going to click inside the R and hooker headers. That's highlighted a bunch of other stuff. That's good. So we're going to go back up here to our base paint. We're going to make it visible. We're going to grab our paintbrush and we're going to do it all again. All right. We're going to come up here and we're going to do this one all again. All right. Then we're going to hide our base paint. Come back down. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab the decal layer. This time we're going to select, we're going to deselect everything, and we're going to pick something white. We're going to go in here, we're going to hit Shift. We're going to hit right in the center of the T on STP. We're going to go back to the base paint, make it visible, use our paintbrush. Okay, and see we're still missing some things here. See that weld is not quite right, Edelbrock's not quite right, STP is not quite right. If we didn't fill all that in, that would mean that those parts of the decals would be chrome plated. You might or might not notice them, but I'd like to try to do just a little better job. So I want to go back and see. It looks like the blue in the STP here is one of the things that we're missing. So I'm going to go to my decal layer one more time. I'm going to make it visible. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to see if I can't use the magic select button and magically select everything that's some shade of blue. If we do this right, that's going to help us out. We'll zoom out. We're going to come up here to our base paint, make it visible. We'll select it again. We'll go to the paintbrush. Go through all that. We'll go ahead and deselect. We're getting really close. Got something outlining the things in hooker here. Got part of the Moroso. Whoa, we don't want to do that. Got part of the Moroso there that doesn't look right. So let's go back to our decal layer. Something doesn't look right on the Moroso paint, so I want to go back and I want to select the black again because something just doesn't look right. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift and select. Yeah, something just doesn't look right in that Moroso up here in this one. So I want to go back and I want to repaint that. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to use my paintbrush and I'm going to repaint that Moroso. And that does a little better job. And I'll come back down here and make sure that all looks good. Okay, so if we look at our spec layer here, we should see all of the sponsors that we put on the car highlighted if we don't want them to be shiny or flat. But that's not what I'm seeing because I'm missing Summit and I'm missing Napa. So I've still got one set of things to do. So we got to go back to our sponsor layer and make it visible. We're going to hide the base paint layer for now. We're going to deselect everything. And we're going to grab all the yellows for Napa Auto Parts. We're going to go to our base paint. We're going to make it visible. It grabbed part of Summit, but we're not going to paint the Summit. We're going to go ahead and just paint these parts of Napa for right now. And paint this one as well. We're going to go back to our decal layer, or to our sponsor layer. We're going to hide the base paint. We're going to deselect. We're going to zoom in. And we're going to select all the blues that are part of Napa. And we're going to go back to our base paint. We'll make it visible. We'll grab our paintbrush, and that's going to make the Napa visible. Now, I could make the red chrome if I wanted, and I could leave the background chrome. But I think I would rather try not to, so I'm going to go back to my sponsor layer again. I'm going to zoom in just a little. And I'm going to select, I'm going to use the control button to select this red stripe. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to select this red stripe. And I'll go back to my base paint, and I'm going to go ahead and use my paintbrush and make those black as well. Now all that's left is for me to take care of the Summit Racing logo that we've got on the trunk. And I'm going to go back to my sponsor layer. I'll come over here to the Summit logo. It is mostly selected, but I think what I really want to do is I want to just select this logo all by itself. So I'm going to hit Control, I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm going to pick all the blues. Well, that's not what I wanted. I've got to make sure I select the magic wand. So I'm going to hit Shift, I'm going to pick all the blues. Then I'm going to pick the reds. You know what? I think I should pick the reds first, just looking at this, because the reds are going to be a little harder to pick out because of that small lettering. Now I'm going to pick the blues, even if I have to pick them one at a time. That should take care of business here. And if I need to, okay, I'll let the trademark go for now. So one last time, we're going to go up to base paint. We're going to make it visible. We're going to use the paintbrush, and we're going to paint in everything that we selected here. And the one thing that's missing, we're going to go back and get it, is the trademark. So we're going to go to our sponsor layer. We're going to hide the base paint. I just find it easier to work hiding it. Ooh, I painted something in there that looks like it probably shouldn't have been painted in. No, it's good. So now I'm going to hit my select tool. I'm going to shift. Oh, that's not true. I'm going to deselect first. Then I'm going to hit my select tool. I'm going to shift. I'm going to pick the blue again. And this time when I go to the base paint, I'm just going to paint in the R, the trademark symbol right here. I need to do that with the paintbrush. All right, so if we zoom out now, this is what we see. This is our spec layer. I think we do probably want the Diet and Diet Coke to be black, don't you? So we should probably do that. We should probably make all this black because we want the Diet part to be regular gloss. We're going to want this to be regular gloss. And you know, thinking about it, we probably also want the shadows on the zeros to be gloss. So we should go to the number block, or to the number page, make it visible, hide the base paint, deselect everything. We got one last selection to make, and then I think we will be done. We hit that select wand. We're going to shift, and we're going to pick the black part of the number, and that's going to select everything that's black on the number page. Make the base paint visible. Grab our paintbrush, and one last time, we're going to go in and we're going to paint everything black. Now, on this screen, we have a spec layer. And this spec layer is what tells Iracing which things should be chrome plated, a metallic finish, which things should be a flat finish, and which things should be a regular gloss finish. If it's green on our car, when we get this all done, it's going to show up as flat. If it's red on our car, when it's all done, it's going to show up as a metallic chrome finish. And on our car, if it's outlined in black on this screen, it's going to show up as its normal finish. Now we need to save this. So I'm going to go File. I'm going to go Save As. It's our Diet Coke Spec Layer. So we're going to call it Spec Layer. We need to save it as a TGA file. Everything that gets read by Iracing and by Trading Paints has to be a target file. We're going to hit Save. We're going to hit OK. We're going to go ahead and flatten the image. We're going to unflatten it. And now I'm going to save the whole project as a paint.net PDN file. Okay? So what do we do next? Well, you know how we've got this test session going. What we're going to do is we're going to cheat. And we're going to force Iracing and Trading Paints to recognize the work we just did. And the way we do that is fairly straightforward. We're going to go into our Diet Coke car. Why do we have two spec layers saved? Let's see the properties of this big baby. This is a paint.net image, but it's a target, so this is the one we want. Okay, we're going to take our street stock TGA, we're going to copy it, and we're going to open up our file system. We're going to go and we're going to force Iracing to recognize us. So we're going to go to Documents. We're going to go to Iracing. We're going to go to Paint. We're going to go to Street Stock. And in here we've got a whole bunch of cars. These are all cars that raced with me in the last couple of races. And none of them really matter. So I'm just going to delete all of them. I'm going to delete everything that's in here. We just get rid of it all. Okay? And I'm going to paste that file that we just made. There's a big trick here that you have to know. You need to know your Iracing number. That's your driver number. It's your membership number. They gave it to you in an email. Right? And you're going to name this car, and then you're going to hit the underscore button, and you're going to put in your driver number. My driver number is 522997. We just named this car 522997. Right? Now we're going to go back to our Diet Coke car. We're going to click that spec layer. We're going to copy it. And go back to Documents, Iracing, Paint, Street Stock. We're going to right click. We're going to paste that big baby in. Now we're going to call it car underscore spec, SPEC underscore 522997. So that tells Iracing now what my car is supposed to look like. I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to rotate this around so we can see the car a little better. I'm going to zoom it out just a touch. And now we're going to do one other thing. We're going to hit Control R. So if we hit Control R, that tells Iracing to refresh the paint scheme on this car. And when we do that, we've got our bright silver Diet Coke hot rod. Now we've run into one problem, and the one problem is that Iracing has reverted to the number that we used when we painted our last car. So what we're seeing here is the number 1 that I used on the Mizzou car. But notice that everything looks good. Right? We can go back to Control F12, and we can rotate the car around a little bit. We can see that the Coke is flat just like we wanted it. We can see the numbers are not the least little bit shiny. That's what we wanted. So this looks good. This is exactly what we wanted to see. We're going to get away from the spotter cam. We'll go to the chase cam. That's a little easier. The Summit Racing looks good. And where there was clear, that's all chrome plated inside the Summit Racing. We can see that here. This car looks fantastic. It really does. So we've got one last thing that we need to do. How do we tell Iracing that this is what we actually want to race? See, we just cheated and we forced it to recognize us. But what if we wanted to race this paint? Here's what we do. We go back to Trading Paints. We choose a paint. We upload a paint. We're going to select a file. We're going to use the street stock file that we've created here that's got our Summit Racing logo on it. We're going to upload it. But see, Trading Paints has to know that we want our car to be chromium plated. So for Trading Paint to know that, there's another step. So here's our car. It's got all of our logos on it, got our sponsors on it, got Coke on it, got the Johnson Iracing team on it. We need to go back to choose paint, and we need to click Add Spec Map. And up here it says it wants a Spec Map MIP file from your device. Well, there's a reason that we forced Trading Paints and Iracing to talk to us. And that's because if we go back to our documents, we go back into Iracing, we go back into Paint, we go back into our street stock. Now we see this .mip file. That file got made when we forced Iracing to talk to us. Iracing had to make that file for us. Now we're going to take that file and we're going to upload it into our paint schemes here on Trading Paints. Now we should be able to go do a little bit of racing. So we're going to go back over. We're going to come out front. We're going to get onto the member page of Iracing. We're going to go ahead and test the car on the track. We could do the same thing in a practice if we wanted to. I'm just going to go ahead and pick a test just because. Again, I've got the audio from the display. I have it turned off right now so that it doesn't drown out my voice when I'm talking to you. But you're not going to be able to hear the car run, but that's really not the point. What we're going to try to do here is we want to see what this Diet Coke car really looks like. It may be too shiny. We may have to, ultimately we may want it to be a little flatter. The chrome may be too chromium plated, but I think it's going to look pretty good. Diet Coke, Napa, and Summit Racing equipment race car I think is going to look really good. And in the long term, you know, we may decide to add some stripes or something to it, but I think for the purposes of this tutorial, this is going to turn out really, really well. We'll wait for the tech inspection to be done. Go ahead and crawl in the car. We'll see if the paint updates. It does, so the paint has just updated. We saw it flash through the white, and then the MIP layer was recognized. And we can see just by looking over the hood that we've got a chrome-plated race car. So I'm going to go ahead and run one real easy lap here. We're not going to go hard. We're not going to push the car. Let it slide up if need be. We'll get down here into turn 1, and we'll stop here between 1 and 2. So we're going to stop in here between turn 1 and 2. We're going to get out. We're going to take a look at this Diet Coke chromium plated race car. So you can see the chrome looks really good on it. I mean, it looks like it's chrome plated. It's a shiny silver race car, and you can see that really well. You can even see that on the bumpers, the rookie stripe is chrome plated. We didn't have to do that, but we chose to. We could go back and we could say the rookie stripe shouldn't be chrome plated. If we hit Control F12, we can kind of scroll around the car. We rotate a little bit this way. You can see that the Coke symbol itself is flat. There's not a bit of shine on the Coke. That's what we were after. There's not a bit of shine on the 00s. They are flat as a pancake. Same way with the Coke in the front. The car itself is very shiny, and then all the decals and the other sponsors look like regular decals. There's something weird going on with that 0. It's a little bit of a reflection right here. So we've got a little reflection going on that 0. We pull back out, right? So what we just did in this 5-step tutorial is we walked through making a custom race car that has a chrome base paint layer, that has normal texture on the decals and the sponsors, but then has the numbers and the primary sponsor, which is Coke, in a flat texture. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that this is something that you enjoy doing. I like to paint. My job can be kind of stressful, and painting is just something that brings me a lot of pleasure. It's very easy for me to do, and it just kind of lowers my blood pressure, and I just kind of like doing it. So I hope you found it helpful. If you do, please give us a like and a share. Subscribe to our channel. We'll have tutorials coming out on a regular basis. The next tutorial I anticipate will be a tutorial on making another qualifying setup. So it'll be a sequel to the most recent tutorial on how to make a qualifying setup. For the Johnson iRacing team on the Johnson iRacing Network, this is Aaron Johnson saying, go fast, turn left, have fun.